program continues, I'd like to welcome His Excellency, Finance Minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Monsieur Nicolas Kazadi, to the stage for our fireside chat. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. You represent a very large country, rich in minerals, natural resources, and opportunities. Now, you've joined office recently, a little over a year ago, and I'd like you to, perhaps with our first question, reflect back and look forward at the same time. As Finance Minister, what is your top priority when it comes to infrastructure development for the country?
Yes. Yes. Now it's okay. Okay, thank you. Yes, first of all, let me tell you that it's a pleasure for me to be here because we acknowledge the big job done by AFC to find solution to finance infrastructure in Africa. So it was important for DRC to be present here because we are newcomer in the team of AFC member countries, and we expect a lot from this membership. On your question, yes, it is clear that a country like DRC, which went through a lot of things through history, infrastructure is one of our more important needs, very critical. We are among the countries that are more in need of infrastructure, and financing that is a key priority. And for me, what we are doing is, first of all, to raise public funding accordingly, because we are doing our best to raise the level of the ratio of public income through GDP, and we are doing quite well thanks to a lot of reasons. One of that is that we have raw material that are very critical to the energy transition, and with a high level of price globally. So we take advantage of that, and we are putting in place key reforms. First of all, to have more funding locally and externally, and that's why we are a new member of AFC. And second, we are putting in place key reforms because the model is important. Not only the money, but also the model to attract public and private funding accordingly. That is the key part of my daily job.
And what are you doing when it comes to making the DRC appealing to foreign investors?
Yes, first of all, we want to make things very simple and clear. Very clear policies and to facilitate business environment, and allow our investors or global investors to see the opportunities that the country is giving, because in terms of opportunity, it is one of the biggest opportunity land in the world, DRC. But we have to change that potential to reality.
Absolutely, and one thing that has been coming up, well, throughout the day is the notion of local value creation and industrialization. Now, looking at a country such as the Democratic Republic of Congo, where you have a lot of natural resources, but where, for the most part, it has been exported in raw form. How are you going about economic diversification and increasing local value content creation?
Yes, absolutely, you're right. You are raising a very relevant question. Having more value added internally is a key priority in terms of diversification. We have the mining sector, where we are one of the best in Africa in terms of potential, but we have also agriculture. But we start by the mining sector. And our short-term objective is to be able to start transforming our raw material into, like, the battery component, precursor of batteries. We have some project. We have started with Zambia, and this will change completely the situation of the country. This will bring Congo into the industrial world and add value. We are talking about billions. We can move to trillion very quickly, and that is one of our key objectives.
And a big topic at the moment, Honourable Minister, is that of net zero. and the fact that the world is moving towards reducing climate and carbon emissions. Now, what I found quite interesting is that, when we think of net zero, we obviously have to think of the minerals that are being used in the batteries that are going to replace some of the emissions that we're currently using. Now, there was a study that was made which identified the DRC as one of the potentially leading countries to be able to develop particularly lithium. So where are your plans in terms of that?
Yes, and that study made by Bloomberg, which is a reliable entity. Bloomberg said that it is 3 times more profitable to do it in DRC than doing it in China or in the United States. That means that we are the future. That is our comparative advantage. We want to take advantage of that, and we are doing that. We are in the process of doing that in this short term. But when you talk about zero carbon, that's why we say that we are a solution. We are a solution country for the world, because we have the assets. We have the 70% of the world cobalt is in DRC. We are among the top producer of copper, etc. So we are bringing solution. But also, I heard the voice raised by our leaders, the president of Ghana and the vice president of Nigeria this morning, saying that we need strongly to have a common narrative when it comes to effort to achieve our global goals in terms of climate challenges. And it is obvious that we are not part of the problem. We are the solution, we bring the solution, but we don't get back what we should get back in terms of solidarity at the world level. It was said that we are not among those who have spoiled the climate, but we are suffering from that, and we don't get enough funding. So access to funding is a key priority. Should be seen as a global challenge and a global objective. Otherwise, we will miss our objective on climate.
Indeed, and I think it was the president of Ghana who noted this in terms of COP26, and he said that we hadn't gathered together, but it seems that we are all suffering together for something that wasn't necessarily created by us. In terms of COP27, what are your ambitions for the country, and what are you expecting?
On the next COP?
The next one, yeah.
No, first of all, let me tell you, an example like DRC. We have in our country is as big as all the Western Europe, and even more than that. We have 60% of the rainforest of the continent, so it's an asset for the world regarding climate. But we receive only less than 5%. We receive only less than 5% of the green finance that goes to Africa. This is completely unfair, and we will miss, if we miss our development, the world will miss its climate objective, and we'll all be missing. So that is something that is important. Things should be seen differently.
So this is linked to the notion of risk that we discussed earlier. And how capital is being distributed onto the continent. How do you feel about the risk premium associated with your country, and what are you doing to improve it?
How do you?
The risk premium in terms of foreign investors.
This is also something very unfair that we all face. But what I see is that some people from what we call the new world, they come to understand that this risk premium that they are putting on us is completely unfair. It is not to their advantage, because we are the place where you have perspective, where you have opportunities that you don't have in the Western world. So I think things are moving, things are changing, and I hope that it will continue to change. But for the time being, we are struggling to make this message, to raise that voice so that people understand.
Do you feel that a united voice would be stronger?
Absolutely, absolutely. And also, coming here was also important. Why? Because AFC is the kind of response that we are giving as African. Because in an African initiative, African funding for African challenges regarding infrastructure.
Absolutely, absolutely, no doubt about that. And on the notion of industrialization, or let's call it mass industrialization, how can a country such as the Democratic Republic of Congo leverage its natural resources for accelerating industrialization?
Yes, for the time being, our comparative advantage is mainly on the assets that we have. But we should improve that comparative advantage to on our human capital. That's why it is so important to invest in human capital, because that is the things that will make the change. Now it is profitable to make batteries in DRC more than China and US only because of national resources. But at a certain time, we will need to have people well trained, and that is why our president has put an emphasis on investing in human capital, making free education a reality, etc., etc.
I'm so glad, Honourable Minister, that you raised that notion. That was going to be my next question. In terms of human capital, I mean, for a lot of our nations, we are the youngest continent, and for a lot of our nations, we have an issue when it comes to the youth and the economic environment upon which they're going to find themselves in. How are you tackling this in the DRC?
How do you?
How are you tackling youth and human capital development?
Yes, but that's what I was saying. First of all, we start by the foundation. Education, like I think every country in Africa, they talk about free education for all, but it's not a reality. So starting to do that is the first step. Then you get at the secondary level, at the vocational training and all the other activities. And entrepreneurship, which is key, because the future of employment is entrepreneurship indeed. So, and people should change their way of seeing things, and we have to prepare our youth in that regard. That's something that we don't do enough, I think, at the African level. And also, if you want to have entrepreneurs, you need funding, you need some infrastructure, you need water, you need energy, which are critical. And on energy, we need to fill the gap. Africa is too much left behind in terms of access to energy, and you cannot do anything if you don't have energy, if you don't have finance.
And in terms of capital allocation for the country, when it comes to developing the skills required for those industries that you identified, so notably the mining industry, as well as the new metals, how are you allocating this?
No, you talk about internally, or?
Yes, internally. In terms of creating the skills, developing the skills in the country.
Yes, we are working hard to be able to fund our key areas where we need skills, but it is clear that this is also a matter of solidarity at the world level. Otherwise, we will never be able to make it. So, because we are too much behind, so we need solidarity, and that is where we want to put our the most important direction of our collaboration, our cooperation with the world. Yes.
Thank you so much, Honourable Minister. I believe that our time is now due. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm now going to, can we have a round of applause for the Finance Minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo, His Excellency Nicolas Kazadi, representing the Presidency.
Thank you very much.